Hey, Playbookers, it's Todd with the Church Playbook, and I am here to answer your top questions about the unique challenges that we as pastors have when we lead churches of under 200. Now, this is actually a part two. I did a video a couple of weeks ago about where to find staff and, more importantly, how do we pay for them. And we actually talked about, hey, before you interview anybody, before you pay anybody, make sure that the person that you're going to hire, whether they're a volunteer or paid, it doesn't matter, they've got to fall into the 4 C's, which in this order: character, competency, chemistry, and culture. They've got to have those 4 non-negotiables in order to join your team. But at some point, you do need to invite someone onto the team. You can't do this by yourself. In fact, I was just talking to a pastor yesterday. He's the only staff member of his church. He's got 100 people in his church, and it's just hard. I mean, it never really stops being hard, but it's a different kind of hard. It's a harder kind of hard when you're doing it all by yourself. And so we're just going to jump right in here. If you are leading a church of under 100, listen, you have no money. Believe me, I get it. You can't just go put an ad out on one of these church staffing websites and hire someone. You just don't have the cash for that. So your first job is to find the 5 best leaders in your church. And by the way, I'm talking about leaders, not doers. There are, one of the mistakes that we make as pastors is we'll go and find our 5 best helpers. And helpers are essential to what we do, but they're not necessarily leaders. And so you want to find your 5 best leaders. And again, that has to fit into the matrix, the framework of those 4 C's. They've got to have character. They've got to have competency. You have to have chemistry with them, and they have to fit the culture of your church. And you're going to staff these 5 areas of ministry, call them departments, call them whatever you want, but you're going to cover these 5 bases first, and in this order: worship, children's, youth, adults, and administration/finance. Okay, worship, children, youth, adults, and admin. And here's how you're going to hire these people. You're going to give them a title and a platform. Okay, so you're going to give them a title because that's all you can afford, and it's going to be, the director of worship or worship director. It's going to be the director of children, or Kids Town is what we call it in our church. You're going to give them a title, and you're going to give them a platform. So depending on who it is and how public they are, the church needs to know, hey, this is one of the core leaders of our church. And so you platform them by, like, you have them do announcements on the weekend. You get them in a rotation basis. If you're doing a meeting, maybe you invite one of them to join you in the meeting, and as a way of honoring them. But it lets people in your church know, hey, this is a leader in our church. So you're going to hire them with a title and a platform. Now, this is your staff. Now, you're going to meet with your staff once a month, because again, chances are in a church of less than 100, not only do they have a full-time job, you probably have at least a part-time, if not a full-time job outside of your church. And so you're going to meet with your staff once a month, and the best time to do this is probably a Sunday afternoon, maybe a Sunday evening. And weeknights are good, but weeknights are tough because again, you're dealing with families and there's soccer practice and homework and all of that. And so if you can get a once a month meeting, make it the same Sunday every month, hey, we're going to meet on the second Sunday of the month or the last Sunday of the month or whatever. And so you're going to get all of them in a room, and you can, if you have time, meet with each of them individually once a month. But again, this is when you're less than 100. But you're probably going to do email and phone call rather than a sit-down one-on-one. So you're going to have a staff meeting with your team once a month, probably on a Sunday afternoon. Now, here's what you need to be clear about when you hire anyone, whether you're with money or title, whatever. You've got to be clear about three things, especially here. You need to be clear about what they're responsible for. You need to be clear with them about what decisions they can make on their own. Because listen, you don't want every day, every other day to get some email, hey, can I do this? Can I do that? You really want to release these people into ministry, so be clear with them about what they're responsible for, and then give them the authority to do that. Let them know. Be clear about what decisions they can make, and then be responsible or be clear about who they report to, which is probably going to be you, and then how often. So even if you're only going to do a staff meeting once a month, maybe hey, every Thursday we're going to either do a phone call or you're going to answer these three questions in an email every single Thursday. How are you doing? How's the ministry doing? What can I do for you? I mean, those are just off the top of my head, but those are the questions that I would ask them to answer in an email every single week. So again, when you're leading a church of less than 100, we're going to hire 5 people by title. We're going to give them a title and a platform. And in this order: worship, children, youth, adults, and then administration / finance or bookkeeping or whatever. Now, once you get past 100, now, by the way, I've got tips and tricks for anywhere between 0 to 1,000. Now, my churches, we're not quite at 1,000 yet, but we're getting closer. And so if your church is past the 200 mark, hey, put a comment in the comment section, give me your email or message me privately. I'd be happy to talk to you. But I'm dealing with strictly churches of 200 and under in this video series. So from 0 to 100, we're hiring people with title and platform. From 100 to 200, you've probably got a little bit of budget to start hiring some part-time staff. And watch this, you're going to do this in the same order that you would hire your volunteers. So when you start paying people, you're going to start with worship, and then you're going to go to children's, and then you're going to go to youth, and then adults, and then admin / bookkeeping. Now, how much do you pay them? You pay them $50 a week. $50 a week. And because at this point, remember, we're hiring people from within your church, which is typically better. In fact, I wasn't even going to say this. I'll just throw this out there. This is, I won't even charge you for this. How's that? Okay. Listen, when it comes to hiring people, if you like the culture that you have, you need to hire someone that is from within your church, because they share the DNA of the church. They will reinforce the culture that you already have. If you need to change the culture, that's when you hire someone from outside. Now, the other reason is if there's absolutely no one in the church that has the skill set that you need, then you can also go outside. But there's even things you can do with that. So if you want to reinforce the culture that you already have, you hire someone from inside. If you need to change the culture, you hire someone from outside. But in a church of 0 to 100, from 100 to 200, you can't get anyone from the outside. And listen, you don't want anybody from the outside. You want to you're the driver of the DNA and the culture of the church at this point. You need to stay that way. So you need to hire people that are inside your church. Now, $50 a week, and we do $50 per person, so that's $250 a week. Because $50 a week, you will actually get consistent productivity at a part-time level, but you'll get consistent productivity from these people at $50 a week. Now, one of the mistakes, and listen, I did this too when we first started out, but one of the mistakes that we do in this situation is we'll hire one person at $500 a month or $1,000 a month to do three things. We'll have them be responsible for worship, children, and youth. And guess what? They don't do any of them really well. And so you're frustrated most of the time. They're frustrated most of the time. And so it's actually better if you hire someone at something like $50 a week. And raises are handled in the same order. So once you get your worship guy or gal at $50 a week, and then your children's person, and then your youth person, and then your adult, and that's someone that's handling both like small group ministry and helping people get plugged into ministry, and then your admin / finance. Once you get $50 a week, and then you go back up to the top and say, hey, Joe or Jane or Sally or whatever, hey, you've been doing a great job leading worship on Sundays. People are really responding. And so I just want to say thank you. And I'm going to double your salary. We're going to go from $50 a week to $100 a week. And then again, as attendance continues to go up, then you go to your children's person and you take them from 50 to 100. So that's what you do. You're finding staff inside your church. You start by giving them a title and a platform. Then you give them $50 a week. And we're going worship, children's, youth, adults, and administration. And let me just give you one more sort of bonus tip, and then we'll close this video out. Bonus tip here is this. Here, before I give you the bonus tip, let me give you a cold, hard fact. The truth is, the people that start with you will not end with you. There are some rare, few and far in between exceptions to that rule. But typically speaking, and I mean, I've been doing this for a couple of decades. I started my church a little more than 7 years ago, and I've just seen it true over and over and over and over again. The people that start with you won't end with you, and we'll have that conversation another time. But the thing that you do need to realize is when you invite someone onto your team, and by the way, I didn't say this earlier, and I should have. When you hire someone with the title, or when you're giving someone $50 a week, you ask for a 6-month commitment, and then you re-up with them every 6 months. But here's the deal: there's going to be turnover, and it's not necessarily your fault, and it's not necessarily their fault. Churches grow, churches change. There are some people who have a skill set that's perfect for where you're at right now, but they can't necessarily help you get to the next level. And they're gonna know it, and you're gonna know it. And most of the time, these people just say, you know what? I love my church. I love you, Pastor. I'm just super stressed out about this all the time, or I can't balance this and work. And you're just always gracious with them, and you say, hey, thank you so much for how you've served our church. Who you are to me is more important than what you can do for our church. And so thank you. Now, here's the deal. There's going to be turnover. Here's the bonus tip. You always hire up, never down, and never sideways. You always hire up. The truth is, I would rather have no one in a position than the wrong person in the position. And so sometimes that requires you and your church to be patient while you're waiting for the right person to emerge, or you're waiting to ask the right person to step up. So that's the bonus tip. You always hire up, you never hire down, and because there's going to be turnover, and there's going to be a temptation to just fill a hole, do sort of this stopgap measure, so the battleship doesn't sink. And I'm just saying, hey, resist that temptation, and it's better to have no one in the position than the wrong person. So listen, I hope that was helpful. That was part 2 of where to find staff and how to pay for them for churches from 0 to 200. And listen, every time that you like this video, that you leave a comment, when you subscribe, that actually tells YouTube to keep this video in front of other guys and gals like you and me, pastors that are trying to do our best to love God and lead His people and reach and change our communities. And so if you'll like, comment, subscribe, and even share this video with some other pastor friends, that would be huge and awesome. You guys are awesome. Thank you so much for trusting me with your time and attention, and excited to hang out with you again soon. Take care.